Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt a strange heaviness the moment someone knocks on your door, as if their presence might drain your energy or disrupt the fragile balance of your inner world? It's not simply about being shy, antisocial, or rude. It's about something far deeper, something rooted in the very architecture of your psyche. That discomfort you feel when visitors arrive uninvited may actually reveal profound truths about your soul, about your boundaries, and about your need for authentic connection rather than superficial interaction. Jung believed that our aversion to constant company is not a flaw, but a signal, an inner compass pointing us towards solitude, reflection, and the necessity of preserving our psychic energy. For some, having visitors can feel like being forced to perform a role that isn't truly yours, to wear a mask you never wanted to put on. And so, when you feel resistance, it is not the people themselves you are pushing away, but the false expectations society places upon you to always be available, always open, always ready to entertain. Jung explains that those who prefer solitude are often more in tune with their unconscious, more connected to the inner world that most people spend their lives running away from. So if you find yourself uneasy with visitors, it may be because your soul is calling you back to yourself to protect your energy and to choose depth over noise. This video is about that hidden meaning, the psychological insight Jung gives us into why solitude is not a weakness but a form of strength, why saying no to constant company is actually saying yes to your authentic self. And before we dive deeper, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more of these psychological insights that could transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. When Carl Jung explored the inner landscape of the human psyche, he paid special attention to the quiet strength of the introverted personality, the individual who seeks nourishment not in crowds, but in solitude, who feels most alive not at the center of constant interaction, but within the sanctuary of his own inner world. To Jung, introversion was not a flaw nor a symptom of shyness, but a mode of being, a way the soul chooses to preserve its energy and turn inward toward meaning, rather than outward toward endless stimulation. This distinction is crucial because when an introverted person feels uneasy about having visitors, it is not driven by coldness or arrogance, but by a natural instinct to guard their psychological energy. Imagine the psyche as a delicate flame. For some, social gatherings feed that flame and make it grow. But for others, especially introverts, each encounter takes a little of that fire away, leaving them depleted, restless, and in need of silence to rekindle it. This is why visitors, no matter how kind, can sometimes feel like an intrusion rather than a gift, because their presence demands an energy exchange that the introverted soul did not willingly choose. Jung would say that the introvert experiences the world like a constant tide, pressing inward, and without the ability to retreat, they risk being swallowed by the demands of others. To decline visitors is not to reject humanity, but to protect the fragile but vital balance of the inner self. There is a profound psychological wisdom in saying no to excessive company. It preserves the sacred boundary between who you truly are and the roles society demands you play. Consider, for example, the man who chooses to spend his weekend alone, not out of disdain for others, but because he knows that solitude is the only way he can restore himself. While his extroverted friend might recharge through dinner parties and long conversations, he regains his strength through stillness, through the quiet companionship of his own thoughts, perhaps a book, perhaps a walk in nature, perhaps simply the silence of a room where no one expects him to perform. This preference is not weakness, but self-awareness. It is the recognition that constant visitors can scatter the mind, fragment the emotions, and pull one away from the deeper currents of the soul. Jung understood that for many, the refusal to entertain guests is not about disliking people, but about needing space to remain whole. It is the psyche's way of saying, protect this flame, do not let it be smothered by endless noise. And so, The next time you feel a wave of unease when someone announces a visit, recognize that it may not be rudeness speaking, but the voice of your inner self asking to be preserved. In truth, solitude is not the absence of love for others, but the presence of love for oneself. It is the conscious act of refusing to be pulled in 1,000 directions, so that when you do choose to engage, you can give others the most authentic and undivided version of yourself. That, Jung would argue, is the deeper meaning behind the discomfort with visitors. It is not an escape from life, but a return to the center of it. Carl Jung believed that when you feel uneasy about visitors, it often reveals something much deeper about your inner world than mere social preference. It can be a sign of your soul's quiet demand for authenticity. Think about it. The discomfort is not usually because you dislike people, but because shallow conversations and obligatory small talk fail to nourish you. Jung often stressed that the human psyche longs for what is real, for relationships that reach into the depths of meaning rather than skimming the surface. So, when you feel reluctant to host or welcome constant visitors, it might mean your spirit is pushing you toward genuine connections only, the kind where silence can be shared without awkwardness, and where being yourself does not feel like work. In this sense, the refusal of visitors is not rejection. It is a search for truth. It is your psyche saying, "I want depth, not distraction." And here lies the key insight: boundaries. Jung explained that a healthy soul must balance its connection to the outer world with its loyalty to the inner self. Without clear boundaries, you become scattered, drained, and unable to hear your own inner voice. Visitors, especially those who demand your energy without offering real resonance, can make you lose that balance. That is why your discomfort is not a weakness, but rather a form of wisdom. Your unconscious is telling you to protect your inner sanctuary. On a spiritual level, this is even more profound. Many who dislike frequent visitors are not antisocial at all. They are attuned to the sacred value of solitude. For them, silence is not empty. It is full. It is the place where creativity grows, where healing happens, and where the soul remembers who it truly is. Jung would say that this instinct to guard your solitude is part of the individuation process, the lifelong journey of becoming your true self. If you ignore it, you risk losing your center. If you honor it, you begin to align with the deeper rhythms of your spirit. The practical advice, then, is simple yet powerful. Do not force yourself to open the door every time someone knocks. You are not obligated to dilute your energy just to be polite, but also do not let your boundaries turn into walls that isolate you completely. The art is in communicating your truth with kindness. Let people know that you value them, but also value your need for rest, quiet, and authenticity. Instead of saying yes to everyone, say yes to the relationships that feed your soul and no to the ones that drain it. By doing so, you will find that even when you decline visitors, you are not rejecting connection, you are refining it. You are choosing depth over noise, truth over performance, and alignment over exhaustion. And that choice, Jung would say, is not selfish. It is the only way to remain whole in a world that constantly pulls you away from yourself. In the end, we can see that your discomfort with visitors does not mean you are flawed or emotionally cold, but rather that your soul may be sending a subtle signal to protect its energy and preserve its peace. Jung believed that those who resist constant distraction are not avoiding life, but are instead searching for a depth of meaning that shallow social interactions can never provide. So if you find yourself preferring solitude, it might be your inner self asking you to honor its need for authenticity, clarity, and silence. Remember, it is not about pleasing everyone around you. It is about living in harmony with yourself. And in that harmony, you will discover a strength far greater than external approval. Tread gently with your boundaries, honor them, and let them guide you to the relationships and experiences that truly matter. Tell me in the comments, do you feel more at peace in solitude or in the company of others? And which personal moment in your life made you realize this truth most clearly?